Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Fired up.
Ready to go. The third
All right.
time I had to start recording.
Thank you all for coming out this morning and giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I'd like to talk briefly about the James E. Clyburn Fellowship and also our path forward. First, I have to thank Kathy and Randy for telling me about the fellowship. Part of the application process includes getting 2 letters of recommendation, and I've been fortunate enough to get the opportunity to build friendships with many of you here today. I couldn't have been happier when Kathy and Randy said that they'd be willing to submit letters of recommendation on my behalf. Randy, as county chairman, you've been very gracious, and I'm thankful to have your support. And Kathy, someone who I've had the privilege of getting mentored from this election, I can't thank you enough for everything you do and everything that you continue to do for the party. It's truly remarkable. With that being said, I'm excited to be part of the second James E. Clyburn Fellowship class. The 2017 class will consist of 45 other Democrats from 30 counties around the state that will meet for various sessions throughout the year. These sessions will provide young Democrats with the opportunity to develop their political skills. It will show what it takes to run a successful campaign, and it puts fellows in direct contact with party leaders. By building a potential pool of candidates to run for office, Democrats can be selective in making sure the best candidate is on the ballot for each position. These changes won't happen overnight, but eventually, competitive races will result in victories, and that's ultimately the goal of the fellowship. It's also our best shot at turning South Carolina purple and eventually blue.
Yes.
The first session is the last weekend of January. It will be a learning venture for sure that will shape many of the fellows' futures. There will be some fellows who decide against running for office, opting instead to serve their communities in other ways. I'll be the first to admit, right now, I don't know what my political future looks like. But I'm confident at this time, next year, I'll have a much better idea. It's important we start thinking about candidates to recommend for the fellowship in the years to come. We need to make sure Lexington County is well represented. Names like Chris and Stephen immediately come to mind as future fellows. Anthony Thompson is a graduate of this year's first fellowship class. For those of you who didn't attend Jefferson Jackson dinner in September, Anthony gave a very touching speech thanking State Party Chairman Jamie Harrison for his dedication to the fellows. I'm looking forward to working with him and others in the party in the coming months and years. I'd also like to take a moment to reflect on the results of the election. We were all devastated as we watched the election slip away from the first female presidential nominee. It was one of the moments in time that you'll probably never forget where you were or who you were with. The idea of a Trump presidency is hard for us all to digest for various reasons. Days before the election, I decided to go to the Columbia Place Mall for lunch, which I will never do again. And not because of the encounter I had, but because the food was awful. After I ordered, I found a spot to eat at the food court. Soon after I sat down, an older African-American man sat across from me and began making small talk. He told me about his military service and how he's a disabled veteran. The conversation quickly went into politics. He said Trump thinks we're all just a bunch of blank. I will not repeat that word. I thanked him for his service, and he told me I thanked him for his service, and I assured him I'm doing everything I can to make sure that Trump doesn't win. Well, we all know that he won. That encounter is a reflection of America. It's an example of why so many of us are uncertain of what a Trump presidency will bring. What history tells us, though, is that whenever Republicans control all three branches of government, we can expect another Great Recession at best, or another Great Depression at worst. There's only been 3 times in history that that's happened. In the 20s with Herbert Hoover, and in the early 2000s with George Bush. Hopefully, though, that's motivation enough as Democrats to get up and work even harder for a progressive agenda. We need to take this loss and seek out opportunities to improve. We learn the slickest ads, the most money, celebrity endorsements, facts, qualifications, the largest ground game. It doesn't guarantee a victory. Americans care about jobs. Rust Belt America determined this election. They're hurting. They're watching their jobs go overseas. Trump spoke directly to them and assured them he'd bring those jobs back. It's a promise that he's going to have to make good on if he wants to be successful. We cannot afford to be here in the years to come making the same mistakes. No voter, no demographic can be taken for granted. It's time we turn the page and start a new chapter as a stronger, more unified Democratic Party that starts right here, right now, with all of you. We're here today because we are involved. We need to encourage more people to get involved. And speaking of that, I see a lot of new faces, so I'm very excited, very promising. I just hope that you all stay involved because we need everybody. Prior to this election, I had never volunteered in politics and never donated to a party. That all changed early in the year when a friend of mine posted on Facebook about Richland County's reorganization meeting. I contacted that person and asked if I could come even though I lived in Lexington County. That person provided me with Randy's contact information. I reached out to Randy and he gave me the details for Lexington County's reorganization meeting. I attended that meeting not knowing what to expect. Next thing I know, I was the executive committeeman for Lexington's 3rd precinct.
That's right.
Soon after that came the county convention. Then came the state convention, where I had no clue what I was doing running to be a national delegate. I can now say I've donated and volunteered for local, state, and national candidates, and for a party I believe in, for causes that hit home to me, for a vision of America that is fair and just for everybody. Stephen and I even hosted a Hillary event that many of you came to. My point is, all of that happened because of a Facebook post. As a party, we need to mobilize, vocalize, and modernize. Locally, let's work with our friends from other counties and try some of the things that work with them. Let's get the word out that Lexington County will not be overlooked. Let's use technology to our advantage and allow it to grow our base. I intend on working with Randy to accomplish all of those things. My commitment to each of you is to bring back every ounce of knowledge I gained through the fellowship and share it with you all. During Hillary's concession speech, she reminded us all that, and I quote, "This loss hurts. But please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it." and I could not agree more. We must not give up. We must work harder, and we must have faith. Thank you all for allowing me to come speak here today. Randy, it was truly an honor giving me this opportunity.
Do you have any questions for Chad?
I have